Rabotai, we reach verse 14. We finish verse 13. Let's start verse 14. Jeffrey, chapter 18, verse 14.
Yes.
Erev Tov, Jeffrey. Thank you for joining us.
Everybody.
The prophet say like this, Vayihi David lechol derachav maskil ve'Adonai imo.
David was successful in all his ways, and Hashem was with him.
Shat of the Dvarim, if we look at it, that the Mefarshim explain that David HaMelech was successful. What it means successful? Whatever David HaMelech done, he had brocha with it. But what the Mefarshim explain, that David HaMelech actually not only whatever he done, that he played the piano, that the violin, that he killed Goliath. Even when he used to go to the war, he used to win. And the reason for it, said the Mefarshim, because the Almighty was with him. When the Almighty with you, whatever you do, you will succeed. Said the Mefarshim something very interesting. That we know that Shaul HaMelech tried to kill David HaMelech, we explained, and David HaMelech moved in the last minute, and the spear penetrated into the wall. Shaul HaMelech, when he saw that, he realized that HaKadosh Baruch Hu with David HaMelech. But look in verse 15, what the prophet tells us. In verse 15, Vayireh Shaul asher hu maskil me'od, vayagor mipanav.
Saul saw that he, David, was very successful, and he was intimidated by him.
What's happening here? Shaul HaMelech, when he saw that everything that David do and he's successful, he started to realize that it had to be that the Almighty with David HaMelech. And if the Almighty with David HaMelech, immediately Shaul start to understand that there is something here above nature. And there is something here above nature, he start to be afraid of David HaMelech. Why? Because Shaul realized that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with David. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with David, he cannot do anything to him. And he was frightened. Now, the Mefarshim explained from David HaMelech. Until now, we explained that Shaul hated David HaMelech. He hated him. After the Jewish woman sang the song that we explained in the introduction for the Shaul. But now, Shaul HaMelech started to be afraid of David HaMelech. Because why? He saw the hand of the Almighty with David. Wherever David go, the Almighty with him. Whatever David do, the Almighty with him. And he succeed with everything. He saw something that he never saw until now, and that make him be afraid of David HaMelech. Let's go to verse 16. And in verse 16, it says like this, V'kol Yisrael v'Yehuda ohev et David, ki hu yotzer uba lifnehem.
All of Israel and Judah loved David, for he came and went before them.
Okay, on the Pshat of the Dvarim, the prophet tells us that the rest of the tribes include the tribe of Yehuda, but David HaMelech was from the tribe of Yehuda, so what's the Hidush here? They all love David. That means all the Jewish people, all the 12 tribes loved David. What was the Hidush behind it? The prophet tells us because he used to come in the front of them. What it means he used to come in the front of them? That David HaMelech used to go to war and he used to lead the soldiers. David HaMelech was a character that everyone admire. David HaMelech going to war. He had the plan how to fight. He he was in a front line. He didn't was behind line. He gone in a front of his soldier. And when the Jewish people saw the victory, that every time that he go to war against the Philistine, they couldn't understand that. And they start to admire David, they start to love him. That what caused Shaul HaMelech to go ballistic. Why? Because everyone loved David. David, not only that he was a good, let's call it a fighter, he was also brought a lot of salvation to the Jewish people. We have to understand, because until now, the Jewish people was very frightened of the Philistine, because the Philistine all the time never given us, until today, they don't give us a moment of peace. We can see it in Gaza. We can see it now, what we're having in Jenin, in Nablus, in all of those terrorist, I don't want to call them settlement, I call them a terrorist area. So the Philistine never stopped, and the Jewish people was underneath tremendous fear. Until David HaMelech now become one of the officers to fight against the Philistine. And every war that they had, David HaMelech actually brought salvation to the Jewish people. And people start to love him. Not only the soldier that was with him, the rest of the Jewish people loved him, because he bring them kind of peace and tranquility, that they don't have to worry from the Philistine. And that drove Shaul HaMelech mad. Let's go to verse 17, and we'll see here what's happening. How Shaul HaMelech, now in this verse, tried to give the older daughter to David HaMelech. Look what it says. ויאמר שאול אל דוד, הנה ביתי הגדולה מירב, אותה אתן לך לאישה, אך היה לי לבן חיל, והילחם מלחמות אדוני, ושאול אומר, אל תהי ידי בו, ותהי בו יד הפלשתים.
Sorry, I missed out.
Verse 17, verse 17.
Sorry, okay. Saul said to David, here is my older daughter, Merab. I shall give her to you for a wife. But you must be a warrior for me and fight the wars of Hashem. Saul said to himself, let my hand not be against him. Let the hand of the Philistines be against him.
Okay, in this verse, the prophet actually revealed to us what was the plan. What was the plan of Shaul? Shaul introduced David HaMelech to his older daughter Merab. Shaul have two daughters, Merab and Michal. We'll see now what's happened. And Shaul introduced Merab to David HaMelech, and he said to him, listen, I'm going to give you my older daughter as a wife. But I want you to be as a big warrior for me, and I want you to go, and from now on, we're going to fight against the Philistine. In his heart, he wanted to make sure that he knew, or he hoped, let's put it, that David HaMelech going to be killed in one of those battles. But what did he say to him? He said, fight the battle of the Almighty. Okay, the Targum Yonatan and the Malbim that we always bring, the commentary, they explain that Shaul HaMelech actually here said to the David HaMelech, if you gonna fight, and you took on yourself to fight against the Philistine, I'm gonna give you my daughter Mirav. Okay? But the Mefarshim explain, no. Shaul HaMelech even given him an option to choose. I have my older daughter Merav, and I have my younger daughter Michal. You can choose. You don't have to marry who are given you, but you can choose which one of them you want, okay? And then I'll give it to you as a wife. But you have to be a warrior. What was behind it? The Mefarshim explain, and as the prophets say, that Shaul HaMelech didn't want to kill David HaMelech in his hand. Him himself, he didn't want to kill him. So he decided, what is the best way to get rid of David? What is the best way? How I'm going to get rid of that David? I have only one thing. David, I'm referring to David HaMelech. Excuse me if I didn't say HaMelech, because David Melech Israel Chai V'Kayam. He said, I'm going to put him in a battle against the Philistine. The Philistine inevitably all the time fight. It will be many battles. Inevitably, David have to fight. And if he fight, inevitably he will die in one of those. Shaul HaMelech done it because he was frightened that if he going to kill David HaMelech himself with his own hand, or via messengers, or via his minister of defense, Yoav, or whatever the case is, he's going to be punished by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he tried to be clever. What was the idea behind it? I'm going to put him in a front line. Inevitably, during any one of those battles, he will be killed. There's a better chance that he will be killed. And on that, he thought that he's not going to be punished, because he was underneath such a melody and anxiety, depression, that he couldn't think straight. Shaul couldn't think straight. And for a moment, he was thinking that the Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't read thought. In verse 18, look what the prophet tells us. Vayomer David el Shaul, mi anochi, umi hayai, haye mishpachti, mishpachat avi, beIsrael ki hatan lamelech.
David said to Saul, who am I? And what is my life? Or my father's family in Israel, that I should become a son-in-law to the king?
On a pshat of dvarim, David HaMelech said to Shaul, look, I'm not from the royal family, and look at my family. I'm not from a royal family. Not only that, how can I take a daughter of a king that it's a royal family? We have to understand what's happening here. Basically, David HaMelech say he's not deserved to take the daughter's king. That's pshat of the dvarim. I'm going to bring three different opinions that he's not royal, from a royal family. How can he marry? The Ralbag, Rabbi Levy ben Gershon, he born in France. We explained he born 736 years ago. The Ralbag explained that David HaMelech said to Shaul, listen, look at my family. My family, I came from the descendants of Ruth Moabiyah. And you heard, and you asked, and you heard what Doeg Adomi have to say about us, that we may be not worthy enough to take or to marry amongst the Jewish people. Therefore, how can I marry your daughter? How can I marry the daughter of the king? That's the Ralbag. The Radak, Rabbi David Kimhi, that born also in France, he born 865 years ago. He said that David HaMelech said to Shaul that, listen, basically, I'm not from a royal family. My family is not a well-respected family. I cannot marry your daughter. The Malbim explained that if you look carefully what David HaMelech said to him, here he cannot marry his daughter. Why did David HaMelech say he's not married? Said the Malbim that in this verse, David HaMelech doesn't mention, we'll see later on, David HaMelech will say that he's poor, when Shaul sent his messenger again to ask David HaMelech to marry one of his daughters, David HaMelech said to them that he's poor. But now David HaMelech doesn't mention that he's poor. And we have to understand what's the Hidush here. That David HaMelech said, look, I'm not from the royal family, I'm not deserved, or I'm not the right person on that level to marry your daughter. Said the Malbiniya, David HaMelech didn't use that tricks that he's poor. We'll see later on, he will say to the minister of the king that came to try to convince him to marry one of the daughter of Shaul. He said, listen, I'm poor, I don't have money. Now he doesn't say it. The Malbiniya put the emphasis in that David HaMelech played a different trick on Shaul. And we'll see why soon. We'll understand what David HaMelech doing here. And why has he done it, that he talked like this to Shaul? Because if you remember, David HaMelech, when he gone originally to the battle with Goliath, the prophet tells us that David HaMelech all the time asks, what's going to be the reward for the person that's going to kill Goliath? That, and everyone told him the king going to give him his daughter. Now David HaMelech come closer, he become very aware. There is here something that we have to understand what's happening. Okay? Another explanation why David HaMelech didn't say that his poor, said the Malbim, because the king already promised that whoever going to kill Goliath, the king going to give him a lot of money, going to make him rich. So David HaMelech maybe in that precise moment was not rich. But he was expecting a lot of money from the king. That's another interpretation. But we'll see why David HaMelech say no money. It's a very fine line here. He doesn't mention that he have money or doesn't have money. David HaMelech say just not from a very respectable family. Let's go and look in verse 19. What's happened? ויהי בעת ט' את מירב, בת שאול לדוד, והיא ניתנה לעדריאל המחולתי לאישה. Well,
and it happened that when the time came to give Merab, daughter of Saul, to David, she was given instead to Adriel, the Hamalathite, as a wife.
What's happening here? We see here something very interesting. And the Mefarshim bring all different opinions, and we'll see what's happened. We have to explain it. Here the prophet tells us that when the date become that David HaMelech gonna marry Meirav, the daughter of the king, the older daughter. I have to mention that that's the older daughter. We'll see why. Meirav being given to Adriel. Adriel, a Mehulati, that he's from a place that's called Mehula. Okay? And she married him. She married to him. The Metzudot David explained like this. Metzudot David is Rabbi David Alchelai, born in Galicia 336 years ago. Said the Metzudot David, let me explain to you what happened here. It's not that Shaul given Meirav to Adriel. Not at all. What was the debate between Shaul and David to marry one of his daughters, not to marry? Meirav married Adriel without telling her father. That means that she married Adriel without her father even knowing. That's the Metzudot David. Rashi HaKadosh, Rabbi Shlomo Yitzhaki, he born in the city of Troa 985 years ago. He explained that before David even have a chance to take her as a wife, to marry her, immediately she married Adriel. Rashi, what are you trying to tell me? What is the Hidush here? What are they all the time telling us that she married before Shaul HaMelech given her to David? So here come the bomb. Rabotai, this is we have to focus here. There is opinion that David HaMelech, the Mefarshim explained that David HaMelech did done Kiddushin with Meirav. Who Kiddush et Meirav. That means that he done a Kiddushin. But David HaMelech didn't marry her with a ring like we marry today, that we saying to the woman, Hare at mekudeshet li betabaat zot. Yeah, with this ring you are married to me. Okay? Or David HaMelech didn't marry Meirav with anything that was pruta. Okay? Therefore, said the Mefarshim, and now we can understand the Metzudot David, we can understand the Rashi HaKadosh, that by that David HaMelech didn't done Kiddushin with Meirav and didn't give her a ring or anything that was pruta, it's considered like she's not married and she can marry Adriel. And that's the Hidush here. He said that here what happened, let me explain to you. Nachon, that originally the vote was that her father Shaul will give it to David. And David gonna marry her, and David agreed. So basically it was a vote here. But David HaMelech, when he agreed to marry her, he didn't give her any value to marry her, because according to Jewish religion, if you marry someone, you have to the groom have to give the bride something that value of pruta. Okay, pruta, it's I don't know, few cents, okay, or a ring, whatever. By that David HaMelech didn't give her, it's considered like she's not married to him, and the vote doesn't stand. Come Mari Kara. Mari Kara take the case, and he explained it to you exactly what happened. Mari Kara, Rabbi Yosef Kara, he born also in France. He born 960 years ago. And he said that David HaMelech at the beginning didn't want to marry Meirav.
Yeah.
Okay? He didn't want to marry Meirav. Shaul HaMelech tried to convince David HaMelech to marry Meirav. Okay? But while she saw that David HaMelech rejecting her, she said, you know what? Let me go, and Adriel want me, I'm going to marry Adriel. And that's how Mahari Kara put everything together. What Rashi HaKadosh explained, what the Metzudot David, and what the Malbit. He said like this. He said, listen to me. David HaMelech originally didn't want Meirav, didn't want to marry Meirav. Shaul start, listen, it's my older daughter, please. So while all the negotiation was happening between David HaMelech and Shaul, Meirav that saw that, she said to herself, listen, he doesn't love me. Who? I'm going to marry the man that don't love me? She took herself and she married Adriel, and with that finished the case. And that's what's happening in verse 19, Seder Mefarshim. That's what the prophet tried to explain to us. That's how all the commentary, basically now we can understand each one of the commentary, the Metzudot David, the Rashi, okay, and the other opinion. Let's go to verse 20. And here there is something very interesting. And look what the prophet tells us. ותאהב מיכל בת שאול את דוד, ויגידו לשאול, וישר הדבר בעיניו.
But Michal, daughter of Saul, loved David. They told this to Saul, and it was proper in his eyes.
Here the prophet tells us that Michal, the younger daughter of Shaul, loved David. Okay? And Shaul find a favorite. He liked the idea. We have to explain what it means he liked the idea. On a pshat of the dvarim, you can say, listen, he didn't want to marry Meirav. Now that he agreed to marry Michal, he must be very happy. Pshat of the dvarim. We have to understand what's happening behind it. First of all, there is a halachically problem here. If David HaMelech took already Meirav, and the vote was with Meirav, there is halachically problem that now he's going to marry her daughter, her sister, because a person not allowed to marry two sisters. So the Mefarshim explain, like we explained earlier, because the marriage was unexist, because he didn't marry Meirav, because when he say that he married her, the vote, he didn't marry her with anything that had value, not a ring and not pruta, so there's no problem. Now that Shaul see it, that's fine favor. That his younger daughter now gonna marry who? David HaMelech. Ask the Mefarshim, why is Shaul so excited that his daughter gonna marry David HaMelech? What's hiding behind it? Said the Metzudot David, and he explained like this, that by that David HaMelech gonna marry Michal, he will have an influence on David, and he can put pressure on David to be the minister of 1,000 soldiers, the officer of 1,000 soldiers, to go to fight against the Philistine. That means his original plan that David HaMelech will die in one of the battles now coming to reality. By that he's going to marry his daughter, the son-in-law can never say no to the father-in-law. And that's what he was happy. That's what he liked. He didn't care if he married Michal or not. He wanted him to be dead. When I say he wanted him, he wanted David to be dead. So he needed a way to influence him, said the Metzudot David. In verse 21, Vayomer Shaul etna lo, vatihi lo lemokes, vatihi bo yad הפלישתים, ויאמר שאול אל דוד, ושתיים תתחתן בי היום.
Saul thought, I will give her to him, and she will be a snare to him, and the hand of the Philistines will act against him. So Saul said to David, through one of my two daughters, you'll become my son-in-law today.
Here the prophet tells us the scheme of Shaul HaMelech that we explained earlier that said the Metzudot David. But what's the Hidush here? Here the Mefarshim explain that Shaul put David HaMelech and didn't give him a chance. He said to him, listen, or you're going to marry the one, you have to marry one of my daughter, no matter what. You can marry the one that you love and she love you, or you're going to marry the one that don't want you and you don't love her. Pshat of the dvarim. Said the Metzudot David that Shaul HaMelech put him in a no way, what do you call it? Dead end, basically. He said to him, or you're going to marry my daughter Michal that love you, okay? Or you're going to marry Michal that she doesn't want you. You saw she married with Adriel. You have to decide. That means he put him on a dead end. David HaMelech doesn't have a choice. He has to marry now the daughter of Shaul, one of them, you have to marry. Meirav he can't marry because she married Adriel, we explained. So he's stuck. He's stuck with Michal. The Malbim explained that the abomination here was that when Shaul HaMelech given Meirav to David, it's considered as a marriage. And if you're going to marry Michal, like we explained earlier, it's going to be basically like he committing adultery, because you're not allowed to marry two sisters. The Mahari Kara explained that Shaul said to David HaMelech that you have no choice, that you must marry Michal, my daughter, the second one. What do we learn from here? Sorry, there is also the Ralbag. The Ralbag explain it like this. The Ralbag say that Shaul HaMelech say that, listen, I don't think that you have a choice. With Meirav, you can't marry because she married Adriel. You have to marry my daughter Michal. What's the idea behind all of it? We have to understand what Shaul HaMelech doing here. What is the move? Shaul HaMelech didn't give a lot of chance to David HaMelech. At the beginning, David HaMelech tried to pull out. Shaul HaMelech said that David HaMelech debating which one of his daughter to marry, if he want to marry any one of his daughter. Immediately he start pushing him to the dead end street. He couldn't go backwards. And he put him in a situation that he had to marry Michal. And we'll see that the marriage with Michal actually was a very successful marriage for David HaMelech, because Michal loved David HaMelech, and she knew what her father planned. She knew the plan of her father, what he planning to do here. But here we see again that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was with David HaMelech. And David HaMelech was successful. Why was successful? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu was with him. Let's look at verse 22. ויצב שאול את עבדיו, דברו אל דוד, בלט, לאמור, הנה חפץ בך המלך וכל עבדיו אהבוך, ואתה התחתן במלך.
Saul then commanded his servants, "Speak to David in secret, saying, Behold, the king desires you, and all his servants like you. So become now the king's son-in-law."
Here we see again the prophet telling us, Shaul speaking to his servant. And he said, go speak quietly, harshly to David HaMelech, and try to convince him to marry the one of my daughter. Okay? Shaul HaMelech wanted you as a son-in-law. And all the ministers of the king also love you. Therefore, please marry the daughter of Shaul HaMelech, the daughter of the king. And you must remember one thing. We know that you've been hurt. What's happened with his daughter Meirav, that while you was negotiating with Shaul HaMelech, she gone and she married Adriel. Say the Mefarshim that you have to understand one important thing. The king didn't know about it. The king didn't know that Meirav gone and married Adriel. It wasn't with the knowledge of the king. He didn't know that Meirav gonna marry Adriel. The Metzudot, David explained, why is David HaMelech not in a hurry up suddenly to marry the daughter of the king? All the time we explain that when David HaMelech gone to the battle against Goliath to kill him, all the time he asked, what did the king promise? Repeat, please tell me again. Did the king promise to give his daughter to whoever going to kill Goliath? Why David HaMelech wasn't in a hurry up? Because David HaMelech, the Metudot explain that David HaMelech, on a pshat of the Dvarim, didn't want to marry one of the daughter of the king. He wasn't interested. The Radak, Rabbi David Kimhi, he explained that the main reason that David refused to marry Michal, the second daughter, because he felt that what happened with Merav, it was the plan of Shaul HaMelech. It wasn't Merav. Why? Because the daughter can't suddenly decide she's going to go and marry. It's not what we're living today. Because Shaul HaMelech mislead David HaMelech, David HaMelech was very cautious now. He said, if that's what he done to me with Merav, the older daughter, what is the next plan that he planning to do with his little daughter? How's he planning to play with me? And here the Radak said, Rabbi David Kimhi, that David HaMelech was holding back to give his answer, even to the servant of the king. That's what make him very aware to be from Michal. In verse 23 and 24, we're going to read them together. We'll see something very interesting that happening. וידברו עבדי שאול באוזני דוד את הדברים האלה, ויאמר דוד, הנקלה בעיניכם, התחתן במלך, ואנוכי איש רש ונקלה. ויגידו עבדי שאול לא לאמור, כדברים האלה דיבר דוד.
So Saul's servants spoke these words in David's ears. And David said, is it a trivial matter in your eyes to become a son-in-law to the king? I'm a poor and simple person. Saul's servants told him, saying, David spoke these words.
Okay. What's happening here? You remember earlier we said that David HaMelech didn't mention that he's poor. Why? Yeah. We brought the Mefarshim that said that David HaMelech knew, because the king promised that the person that's going to kill Goliath, he's going to give him his daughter, he's going to give him money, going to make him rich, his family doesn't have to work for the king, the family is going to be part of the ministers and etc. So there's a lot of perks here. But in these perks, David HaMelech changed tune suddenly. When they came to give the message to David HaMelech was very cautious. He said, how can it be that I'm a simple person? Okay, not only that I'm a simple person, now I need to marry the daughter's king. Also, I don't have enough money to pay for the daughter. I'm a poor person. So it's not respect that I'm gonna really marry the daughter's king. The Ralbag jumped on that. Why did David HaMelech say that he is poor? Why is he lying? Chas v'shalom. Said the Ralbag, Rabbi Levy ben Gershon, he said, no, not at all. David HaMelech said because in that specific moment he was poor, because Shaul HaMelech didn't give him so far all the perks that he promised. He didn't give him, a matter of fact, anything from what he promised. So David HaMelech can say that he's poor. Okay, because in reality, now he's really poor. Nachon that Shaul HaMelech promised and Shaul HaMelech will pay. But in reality now, he's poor, and he cannot take the daughter. And not only that, David HaMelech basically hinting to the servant. David HaMelech was very clever. He said, I'm a simple person. I'm a poor person. When you married a royal family, you need to give gift that the royal daughter, the princess, deserves to get. I can't afford to give her anything that she deserves to get. So how can I marry her? He said to the servant. That means that now, said the Mefarshim, that David HaMelech play reverse psychology on Shaul HaMelech. The servant of Shaul HaMelech heard what David HaMelech had to say to what David HaMelech told him, and look at the answer that Shaul tell his servant to tell David. And verse 25. ויאמר שאול, כה תאמר לדוד, אין חפץ למלך במוהר, כי במאה עורלות פלישתים להינקם באויבי המלך. ושאול חשב להפיל את דוד ביד הפלישתים. Here, look now.
Saul said, so shall you say to David, the king desires no dowry, only 100 Philistine foreskins to avenge the enemies of the king. Saul intended to have David fall at the hands of the Philistines.
If you look here, it's all mind fighting. Everything, they fight everyone against each other with fought. It's all mind fought. Shaul HaMelech said to his servant, listen, I'm not expecting from David HaMelech in our language to bring Labola or Mohar, or what we call it in Hebrew, Nidunia, to my daughter. I'm not expecting that. Not at all. You know what I'm expecting from David HaMelech? I want you to go to David HaMelech and tell him what I'm expecting, that he's going to kill 100 Philistines, and he must cut the foreskin and bring it to me. Shaul HaMelech hoped, and we'll see why did he say 100 foreskin. It's not for nothing. There's a secret behind it. Shaul HaMelech hoped that while David HaMelech going to fight with 100 people, there's a good chance that he's going to die. A good chance that he will die in that battle. That's pshat of the dvarim. But there is a secret here. When you go to battle and you kill one each other, it's expected, it's understood, it's expectable that people kill each other, that it's a war between X and Y, you know. But Shaul HaMelech said to David, to his servant, to tell David, listen, you have to bring me 100 foreskin. What was the secret behind the 100 foreskin? The Malbim explained like this. The Malbim say, Rabbi Meir Lebush Ben Yehiel Michal Weiser explained, he born in the Ukraine, by the way, 216 years ago. He said that Shaul here said, I have a plan. Even if David gonna manage to kill 100 Philistines and to bring the foreskin, and he's not gonna die in a battle, I'm gonna cause him that he'll have enemies. It's enough that people die in a war, but to humiliate the bodies, to desecrate the bodies By that David HaMelech going to chop the foreskin, you'll have plenty enemies. And Nachon, David done it. We'll see that David done it. He even done more. And he made a lot of enemies. But he never done a battle. But that was the plan of Shaul. By that he said, I want 100 foreskin. The Philistine going to say, listen, it's a battle. We can't keep a grudge. It's a battle. One kill each other, it's finished. By that David HaMelech kill 100 and then cut their foreskin, he desecrated the body. Said the Malbi, you desecrate the body, we're going to keep revenge. We're going to look for you. That's what Shaul HaMelech hoped. Let's go to verse 26. verse 26, ויגידו עבדיו לדוד את הדברים האלה. וישר הדבר בעיני דוד, להתחתן במלך, ולא מלאו הימים. 26.
His servants told these words to David, and the proposal was proper in David's eyes to become the king's son-in-law. The days had not yet expired, and it comes number 727. Sure.
No. Let's stay with 26. Let's stay with 26. What's happening here?
Days.
David HaMelech, when he heard what the servant of the king saying to him, listen, the king doesn't want the what do you call it? Your labola, your nedunia, your
dowry,
whatever you want to call it. Sorry,
dowry,
dowry,
D-O-W-R-Y, dowry.
Yeah, David HaMelech was happy. He only interested. The king interested that you give him back 100 foreskin of the Philistine. When David HaMelech heard that, he was happy. And the time that Shaul HaMelech said to him, listen, I'm going to give you time, because I know that you can't do it in one day. That's what I want you to do. The Malbim explained that the main reason that David HaMelech now was excited for two reasons. Number one, obviously to fight with the Philistine. But number two, that he gonna marry who? Michal. But Shaul HaMelech gave him a time span, you know? You can't take 100 years to bring me 100 foreskin. And now come the critical part that we have to focus. And look what it says, 27, 28. ויקום דוד וילך ואנשיו ויך בפלישתים 200 איש. ויבא דוד את עורלותיהם וימלאום למלך להתחתן במלך ויתן לו שאול את מיכל ביתו לאישה. וירא שאול וידע כי אדוני עם דוד ומיכל בת שאול אהבתו.
It continues from the days had not yet expired, when David arose and went, he and his men, and slew 200 Philistine men. David brought their foreskins and sent them all to the king in order to become the king's son-in-law. Then Saul gave him his daughter, Michal, for a wife. Saul saw and understood that Hashem was with David, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him.
What's happening here? David HaMelech, when he heard that, immediately he took his sword, took his soldier, gone, and he killed 200. The king asked 100. No, I'm going to bring you double. 200. He killed 200, cut the foreskin, and he brought it to Shaul. When he given it to Shaul, Shaul start to realize that's above nature here. Yeah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with David HaMelech. That's it. To kill 200 people and to cut the foreskin, unheard of. You know, who can kill today with automatic gun, machine gun, 200 people? And not only that you kill them, David HaMelech also cut the foreskin. David HaMelech brought it to Shaul. When Shaul saw that, he realized that that success is above nature. Only the Almighty have to be with David. When he saw that, he realized that he have to give, obviously, Michal to David HaMelech. Michal that saw that David HaMelech done what he done, she loved him even more. The Hidush here, that here Shaul HaMelech realized that all the plan that he had basically had gone to the rubbish, to the rubbish bin. He was thinking that by that David HaMelech going to kill 100, he's going to be killed in a battle. It's turned upside down against him. Let's look at verse 29. ויוסף שאול לירו מפני דוד, עוד ויהי שאול אויב את דוד כל הימים.
So Saul continued to fear David even more. And Saul harbored enmity towards David all the days.
Here, the prophet tells us that King Saul started to be afraid of David even more now, because he saw what David HaMelech can do. And he started to be very afraid of him. But also,
Hated
because of that, Shaul, King Saul, started to hate David all of his life. Until Shaul died, he hated David. He hated David all of his life, the prophet said. But after he saw what David HaMelech can do, what is he able to do, he was very afraid of David. David HaMelech, he realized, doesn't play. When David HaMelech mean business, he mean business. I asked him for 100, he brought me 200. He was now in fear of David HaMelech, said the prophet. Let's finish that, we're going to be on time. ויצאו שרי פלישתים, ויהי מידי צאתם, שקל דוד מכל עבדי שאול, ויקר שמו מאוד.
The officers of the Philistines would venture forth. And whenever they ventured forth, David was more successful than all the other servants of Saul. And his reputation became very outstanding.
David HaMelech, that the chapter 18 ends like this, that the prophet tells us that whenever the Philistines decide to take a chance to fight against the Jewish people, David HaMelech took his soldier, took the soldier of Israel and gone with them to the battle, and he used to kill the Philistine. He didn't give him a chance. That more than the servant of King Saul loved David, the entire nation loved David, and they respect him. Why? Because David was a man of his word. If he said that he's going to fight the battle, he fight. And when he fight that battle against the Philistine, every battle he killed more and more of them. So the Jewish people start to honor David and have a lot of respect for him. And please God that we should have today a king like David HaMelech that can kill the Philistine, that you know who they are, the Hamas, the enemy of Israel, the Hezbollah, the Iranian, like David HaMelech killed, Be'ezrat Hashem. And that's how chapter 18 ends, and Be'ezrat Hashem, Rabotai, we're soon going to see the same miracle, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu going to send us someone to do those war properly against them and not to have mercy for those terrorists. Rabota, if you have any question, please unmute the microphone. Bechavod.
Hello, it's Anthony. How are you?
Erev Tov, Antonio, how are you?
All right, thanks. How many years ago did King David live? That's my first question. How many years ago was he living? Approximately.
What is the question? How many years ago he lived, or how many years he lived?
No,
You're
how many
talking
years
ago.
ago? Yes,
We're
ago. How
talking
many years ago?
about. We're talking about close to plus minus 3,000 years.
3,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And the other
Plus
question
minus.
is,
It's actually, if you look at it, it's you can say 3,000. Yeah.
is
Because
it
we are
true
now
that
5'8". Yeah.
Is it true that he had red hair? That King David had red hair?
No, we explained David was Admoni. What it was Admoni? Red faces. But his hair, he has 7 different colors in his hair. He wasn't a ginger.
Wasn't a ginger.
Admoni, Milshon Adom. Admoni means that you look at him, he look like red, but it doesn't mean that he was a ginger, red-headed. You follow?
Yes. Okay, thanks very much.
Pleasure. Any other question? No more question. Okay, guys. So first of all, I would like to take the opportunity to thank you all for joining the show. Thank you for joining the show. I hope that you enjoy it. We're going to meet each other again, Be'ezrat Hashem, Bli Neder, on Thursday night. That's going to be the show of Parashat Beshalach, Bli Neder, Be'ezrat Hashem. We'll meet then. In the meantime, to wish you all Shavua Tov, and that we'll hear Besorot Tovot, that you should hear good news, Be'ezrat Hashem.
Amen.
Amen. Have a good night, everyone, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Good night.